When you first become president, one of the questions that people ask you is, what's really going on at Area 51? I think I just became the first president to ever publicly mention Area 51.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
I had people go look at the records on Area 51 to make sure there was no alien down there. I had all the Roswell papers reviewed, everything.
If you saw that there were aliens there, would you tell us?
Yeah.
You would?
I mean, if there's some huge national security thing and I can't get agreement to open them, I won't. But I do want to open them because I'm interested.
Do you believe?
I don't know. But there are enough stories out there that I don't think everybody is just sitting, in their kitchen making them up. I think that people see things. What they see, I don't know.
That certain morning, I happened to look over into the sky to the northeast, and I seen a very, very bright light up there, like a very bright star. And then I said, well, that's moving. And I just stood there and watched it as what it was doing, and it was just coming down out of the sky real slow, and no noise, just quiet, and I couldn't see no wings or nothing, just floating right through the midair up there. And I thought, well, if I don't tell nobody that I seen something go over town tonight, nobody will believe me tomorrow.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Paranormal Odyssey Live. I am Wayne, and happy to be here with you on this Friday evening, Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a great, happy, and safe Thanksgiving. Everybody got enough to eat and got to spend time with family and all that good stuff. And most important, everybody was safe. And hope the ones of you that were brave enough to go out this morning shopping got some good deals for your effort. All right, guys, like I said, excited to be here. Got a great show lined up for you. But as always, let's get all this stuff out of the way first. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Sure would appreciate it. If you have had an encounter and you would like to come on and share it with me on an episode of Paranormal Odyssey, be happy to talk to you about it. Shoot me an email. You can get me at wayne@paranormalworldproductions.com. Also, guys, if you would, please check out our website, paranormalworldproductions.com. Also, guys, got the Facebook page, still pushing my manimal research page. Nothing is changing there. All of the research that we get out and do, actually got an expedition lined up for next month, so we're excited about that. But if you'd like to be a member of our Bigfoot Facebook group, Manimal Research on Facebook, head on over there and join our group. We'd appreciate it. All right, guys, like I said, got a great one lined up for you today. Got Mr. Al Santariga lined up. He is backstage and ready to go and ready to field any questions you guys might have. So, like always, want to ask everyone, please put those in all caps. Just makes it a little bit easier for me to see and get to them. And like always, if I don't get to your question, if I don't see it, it's not on. I didn't skip you on purpose. I just didn't notice it. So type it again. If a little bit of time goes by and I haven't asked it, just please put them in caps so that I can find them. All right. I believe that is all of that. There is one other thing I want to talk about before we get Al on here. Here in a couple of weeks, it's not going to be next week, but I believe the following Friday, I am going to be interviewing live on here, where you're at right now, a spirit medium, Mr. Daniel Jackson. I have interviewed him on the podcast, did an episode with him a couple weeks ago, and he is going to come back and come on live, and we're going to offer a few of you guys a free reading. He's agreed to come on and do that, and I think Daniel's a great guy. I do. He convinced me told me a couple of things that I found pretty interesting about myself. So I'm excited to have him. And if anyone out there would like to get a free reading, I've got a couple spots already taken, but I'm going to try to do a couple, maybe 3 more. If you are interested in one of those spots, get me either on Facebook or email me at right here, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com. I'll leave that up for a little while so you guys can see it. If anybody is interested in getting a free reading, we'd like to set that up. All right, guys, I think all of that is done and out of the way. I'm excited about tonight. I got Mr. Al Santariga on. Al is the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society and does a little bit of everything in the paranormal world. And he's going to come on, and we're going to try to hit as much of it as we can in the hour or a little better that we've got lined up. So if you guys are ready, I am ready. I believe Al is ready. So let's get started. Al, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Hey, Wayne. Thank you for having me on tonight. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you so very much for taking the time to come and hang out. And like I was telling everybody, you're a busy man. You got your hand in a little bit of everything. So go ahead and tell the people what all you're involved in and name your organizations and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to list like 4 main ones, but there's a bunch of them. It's the Bronxville Paranormal Society. That's my paranormal team. Then there's the New York State Sasquatch Organization. I'm the director of that. The New York State Dogman Project. I'm a director of that. And the New York State UFO Project. I'm director of that as well.
You are certainly a busy man.
Yes, I'm a very busy man. I was with a world-renowned psychic Monday night at a paranormal meetup with a bunch of paranormal celebrities from the Discovery Channel. You may have heard of her. April Brissett is her name. Well, I went out just to hang out and say hello to everybody. And she read me. She wasn't supposed to read me, but she read me. And let me tell you something. That girl is seriously scary. Let me tell you, she was spot on.
Yeah, you and I talked a little bit after you got back from that event that night, and you were talking about how impressed you were with her. So yeah, that's cool. So are you believe in the whole medium thing? You believe those powers exist? There are certain people with those abilities?
Well, let's put it this way. When I met my team psychic, I had known her for like 3 years before she told me she was a psychic. And then when I put my team together, she said she'd like to be on a team and she was a psychic. So I said, okay. Being from New York, I never really met a real psychic. Most of them were BS, and they were just looking to take your money. But we used her. We went on an investigation. We did a two-prong investigation one night. And the very first time we used her, she's telling me, okay, this is what happened here and this is what happened there. And I was like, okay. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to the north end of the property now. Let me know what you think of. Let me know what you feel there. And I just walked around in a circle 2 or 3 times. I didn't really go anywhere. And I was like, okay, what do you feel now? And she's like, Allie, you testing me? Because you didn't go anywhere. You're at the same spot you were before. And I was like, okay, you got me. I believe now, And she went on that night to point out things that nobody in the room knew except for the client, and brought him to tears, and she was amazing. But yes, I've met a few over the years that are really the real deal. Working a demonic case right now, okay? And it's really above my pay grade. I don't really do them, but every like 10 years or so, I get sucked into one of these things because it's either a personal friend or a family member. And I had 2 world-renowned psychics look into it for me. And they both said the same thing. Yes, you're dealing with a demonic entity here. And if you need help, we will help you. And I said, okay. And then I reached out to 2 friends of mine who are very famous demonologists. and I asked them if they would, help me out with this because, of course, it's above my pay grade. And they said absolutely they would. So I got 2 world-renowned psychics and two world-renowned demonologists helping me on this case. So hopefully everything goes according to plan, and we'll be able to take care of the situation. But yeah, no, there are definitely people out there. I've met enough of them now over the years, going to seminars or symposiums and sitting down with at tables and talk. Like I met Amy Allen from the Dead Files, the real deal. Chip Coffee, the real deal. You know what I mean? And so you meet these people, and I'm the type of guy, if I'm sitting at your table and we're breaking bread, I'm going to pick your brain. You know what I mean? And I pick all of their brains. And I never ask anybody for a reading. My psychic told me in all the years we've been working together, she goes, "Why haven't you ever asked me for a reading? Everybody else does." And I said, "Because I'm good where I am in my life. I don't need a reading from anybody." And like I said, the reading that I got Monday night that April gave to me wasn't actually for me. It was for a family member. So I got to pass that information on to them. But yeah, no, there are definitely people out there that are amazing, just absolutely amazing. I don't claim to have any psychic powers. Gut feelings. I get a lot of gut feelings my whole life. Sensitive to different kind of energies. The longer you're in the field, the more you investigate, the more you experience, the more sensitive you become to different energies. Different energies affect you different ways, and you know what you're dealing with. But I'm not psychic by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I get that. I do. You say you're working on a demonic possession case right now, and you don't take a lot of those. And I'm sure you can't talk a lot about an ongoing investigation, so I'm not going to ask you to do that. But in the past, when you have dealt with these type of cases, what have you experienced? I'm assuming you have actually witnessed an exorcism?
Yes. But there's only been one, and I had to do a lot of research first of all, because it was in a big complex, so we needed to know what we were dealing with in the complex. And did a little research and asked a lot of questions. I found out the history of that particular apartment and the people who lived there before, and then what I did is I called in a friend of mine who was a demonologist from the UK, and they came in and they did it via Skype. Okay. And they were able to take that entity with them back to England. And that's how we got it out of the house. And we did have to do what she called, she didn't call it an exorcism. She called it, what was the word she used? Oh man, I can't think of the word. I'm blanking out right now, but God, I can't. It's like something that the Baptists do, or the Protestants down south do. They use a different terminology for deliverance. She did a deliverance.
A deliverance. Okay.
And she was able to exorcise the thing out of the child that it was in, and able to take it with her back to England, to her castle. She has like a well of souls, for lack of a better definition, where she puts these things. And that was the one and only case. And like I said, I got involved because it was a dear friend of mine, and it was a small child involved. And these people had a lot of children that were all very young. So we didn't want it to go from one child to the other, to the other, to the other. So we had to nip that in the bud. But yeah, it was the one and only time. And now this other thing that popped up, and I know a lot of people in the field, and I'm always reaching out to people. I have friends of mine who are hoodoo practitioners, priestess and stuff like that. So if something comes across my desk that's either like a voodoo kind of thing or whatever, I have people I could either call on or have the client reach out to for help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I don't like dealing with anything dark or demonic. It really is above my pay grade. I'm more boots on the ground. I like to do ghosts hunting, which is a term I hate, but I like doing it. I'm happiest when I'm in the woods squatching. You know, my friends call me the Squatch Father. You know what I mean? So I'm happiest when I'm in the woods squatching. I've had 3 or 4 dogman experiences, but it wasn't because I went looking for them. It was because they found me. One time I was drawn to a den. I felt like I was being pulled there, but that's a whole nother long story. But yeah, I've been as far as UFOs go, I've been seeing UFOs since I was 10 years old. Had a couple of abductions cases. I was supposed to. I don't know if you know who Rosemary Ellen Guiley is, but she was a very famous researcher in the field, and she was on all the TV shows. And I had invited her to a symposium one time, and she said, "Al, if there's anything I could do for you, let me know." And I said, my brother's a parapsychologist, and he's been after me for years to get regressed. So there was a case where we lost 2 hours of time, and we all agreed if we get regressed, it would be done as a group thing. But I wanted to make sure it would be safe for the other guys to get regressed. So I was talking to Rosemary, and she's like, "Okay, when I get back from my book tour," she was finished filming for the season, and she was on her book tour. She says, "When I get home, you come to my house, and I'll put you on there, and we'll see what happens. And if everything is okay, then we'll invite the other guys over as well." I said, "Okay." Unfortunately, when she got home, she passed away, and I never got that. Ever to be put under. So that never happened, and I really haven't met somebody else that I trust like I trusted her. She was a dear friend, and I trusted her dearly.
Yeah. So you actually had an instance where you lost a couple hours time?
Yeah, there was an investigation where we lost 2 hours of time one time, but like I said, I've been seeing UFOs since I was 10 years old, and I had my first Bigfoot sighting when I was 12 down in South Florida, in a little town called Davie, Florida, and and it traumatized me for probably 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? But after that, I was okay, and the UFO stuff, I'm not the type of guy that thinks everything in the sky is a UFO. You know what I mean? Especially nowadays, in this day and age, with the drones and everything else. And here in New York, every agency under the world has a drone. And there's 15,000 different police agencies here. They all have drones. And but if I'm driving down the road and I see something in the sky, and the little voice in the back of my head says, "Pay attention to this, it's important," then I'll pay attention to it. If I don't hear that voice tell me to pay attention to it, then I just don't pay it any attention.
Yeah. Now, people that have listened to the show Paranormal Odyssey since I've taken over have probably heard me say a couple of things a couple of times, and I'm about to say them to you. Is one of the things I'm most fascinated with is missing time.
Okay.
That's a topic that just fascinates me, and I would like to hear that encounter. But something else that I'm on record saying is the whole. You said you don't like the term ghost hunting. I'm not crazy about it either, but I guess it's one of the best ways to describe it. But paranormal investigations, ghost hunting, when they first came out, on TV, everyone was all into it. It was great entertainment, great TV, very interesting. Everybody started doing it. I wanted to do it. I really did. I looked into it, but the one thing that stopped me, and I've never done it, and I don't see myself ever being an investigator of paranormal. One thing that stops me is that fear of something latching on and coming home with me, giving it to my kids, giving it to my wife. That terrifies me. It does. And that's why I've never done it. Have you personally experienced anything like that, or anyone on your team that you know of?
Yeah, I had 2 experiences where I had an attachment. The first time we were at a cemetery of an abandoned insane asylum, and I always like to do day and night investigations. I always like to go old school, new school, because a lot of times the new school, the ITC stuff doesn't work out in the field. So you have to go back and rely on the old school stuff, and the old school stuff always works. And so we were at this cemetery one time. Long story short, we were there. I felt funny. Like I felt like I was a little off, but I wasn't saying anything to my partner because I just figured he wouldn't be able to tell because, I'm still me. And he said to me out of the clear blue sky, he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're not acting like you." And I was like, "Well, then who am I acting like?" And he goes, you're not even talking like you." And I was like, "Well, then who am I talking like?" Because I can hear myself talking. It sounds like me. And then he says, "You don't even look like you." And I was like, "Oh, dude, who do I look like if I'm not me?" You know what I mean? And, but I knew he was right, but I was in denial because I know he's very afraid of bringing something home. He's got small children as well, and he's always afraid about bringing something home. And anyway, long story short, we left there. When we left there, we went to get dinner. So when we left the location, whatever was there detached from me and stayed at the location, And then we went back later that night, and that was a whole nother schmeal. But that was the first time. Second time, I had about a month before I was doing a restaurant investigation. And about a month before the restaurant investigation, I had what my friends in the metaphysical world call an ascension, okay? I'm not a very metaphysical kind of guy. I'm more black and white, what you see, what you get. But I had an ascension that just blew my mind, okay? And I don't know if I want to get into it here, but after that ascension, I called some people who were, deeper into it than I was, and they said, "Okay, now, you thought you protected yourself when you went out before. Now you really have to ground yourself, and you have to do this, and you have to do that." And I was like, "Okay." So I went and I did everything that I was told to do to protect myself. And when I got to this restaurant investigation, there was a psychic there that I know, and she was going to be the psychic on the location for the team that was holding the event. And I walked in, and I hadn't seen her in a while, and she's like, "Oh my God, Al, what did you do? What did you do?" And she was like so excited to see me, and I was like, "I shaved my head, what's the big deal?" She goes, "I'm not talking about you shaving your head." She goes, "I'm talking about your aura. Your aura is so bright." She goes, "Oh my God, you had an ascension." She goes, "You had an ascension." I was like, "Yeah, I had an ascension." She was like, "Welcome to the club. Now you're one of us." I was like, "No, don't put me in the same league as you, because that's not who I am, And we had a great conversation. And before the investigation got started, one of the people who were running it had an emergency and they had to leave. And they leaned over to me and they said, "Al, could you do me a favor? Can you run the investigation downstairs? So-and-so is going to run it upstairs for me because I got to leave. I can't stay." And I was like, "Okay, no problem. I got this, And I set up all my equipment and we were getting ready to get started. And I couldn't figure out how to use my equipment. I just drew a blank. I was like, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't figure out how to use my own equipment that I've had for years, And I just couldn't do it. And on all of a sudden, I got very overheated and I had to go into the bathroom and wet my face down. And I came back to the bar and I was sitting at the bar and I was drinking an ice water. And one of the guys came over to me and he said, "Al, what's the matter with you, man? You don't look good, I said, "No." I said, "Bill, I don't feel good, I said, "Do me a favor. Could you run the investigation down here for me? Because something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me." And he's like, yeah, I got this. Don't worry about it." He goes, "Just chill out." So I ended up stepping back and letting my friend Bill run that investigation downstairs. When the psychic came down from the upstairs investigation, like after an hour, She looked at me. She says, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I go, "I don't know." She goes, "Al, your aura is like black." She goes, "Something attached itself to you." And I go, is it is it dark and demonic?" And she's like, "No, it's not anything dark. It's just feeding on your energy because you were so bright when you came in." And she had all her bag with all her stuff there. She started doing a cleansing on me. And this is hand to God. I swear to God, I felt the energy start at the bottom of my feet, go up my legs, up my torso, and pop out of the top of my head. And I told her, I said, "I just felt it pop out of the top of my head." And she goes, "Yeah, your aura's back. You're good again." And she said, "Do this. She gave me some stuff. She said, do all of this stuff if you're going to stay and go upstairs and do the second half of the investigation." And I said, "Okay." And I did everything she said to do. She said, "This will protect you." She goes, "Something just wanted to drain your energy because it was so bright." And I was like, "Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to use my own equipment." But when I went upstairs after she cleansed me, I was fine. I was able to use my own equipment and everything. And then when it was all said and done, I left and I was like, "Okay, I'm never going back to that building ever again." Who's that, Eric? Hey, Eric, what's up, brother? Yeah, so I mean, so that was the second time I had something attached, but I was very lucky. Both times it wasn't anything dark or negative. It was just something that wanted to feel. I think the first one actually wanted to live again through my eyes, and I think the second one was just feeding off of my energy, and that's why I couldn't figure out how to use my camera equipment or anything that I had that was ITC. Because the building we were in was from the cowboy days, like 1700s. So if this person was from the 1700s and attached himself to me, he wouldn't know what any of these ITC devices are, So he was confused and confused me.
For those out there that don't know, including myself, what is an ascension? You said you had an ascension.
It's when your body, I don't know, how do I say this? Your soul or your consciousness is taking out of your body and shown, like, how do I say this? The secrets of the universe. Okay. And told what, like, the secrets of the universe are. I mean, if you want me to tell you what happened, I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I went to bed one night. I was sleeping and I felt like I was having an out of body experience, right? I see myself on my ceiling of my bedroom looking down at me sleeping, and I hear somebody behind me saying, "Tonight's the night. I'm going to tell you the secrets of the universe." And then it starts to take me up into the heavens, and I'm traveling along this rainbow bridge with the colors were like so pure. You never seen colors like this in your life. And I'm being drawn up into the heavens, and we're going up to the heavens, and I can't see who's actually pushing me up there. You know what I mean? I'm just hearing somebody talk to me, and they said, "All right," and I'm going, and as I'm going up further and further, I'm seeing images of music notes and mathematical equations. And then I'm seeing people like Bach and Beethoven and Einstein and Tesla. And I'm seeing all these people and all of this information. And it says, tonight, you're going to ascend. We're going to raise your consciousness to a higher level. And when you come back down to your body, you'll be an ascended consciousness. Okay. So we're going and we're going and we're going. And I don't know, man, we went deep space. And at some point we started to come back. And as we're coming down, it says, "Okay, tonight's the night. I'm going to tell you the secrets of the universe." And it said, the first secret is vibration. The second secret is frequency. The third secret is consciousness. And the fourth secret is intent. And these are the secrets to the universe. And you can tap into these. You can answer any question. Anything that's ever been known or will be known is in the ether of the universe. And that's what these people, it showed me, like Einstein and Beethoven and Tesla tapped into to get their, genius status. You know what I mean? Like all of them, every single one of them say they were given this information from above, when it came to them in a dream. And so I finally get back down to earth, and just as this entity is going to put me back in my body, I say, man, that was a crazy dream, and it stops me. And this isn't a dream. This is real. This happened. And when the snow melts, this is in February, we had like 2 feet of snow in the yard. And they said, when the snow melts, you're going to see the sign. Okay. So I go back into my body. I wake up and I look in the morning. I look out in the yard. I don't see nothing but snow. But as the weeks go on, the snow starts melting. Snow starts melting. And all of a sudden, there's a tree in my backyard. I have a backyard, an immediate backyard, and then a far backyard, and a stone wall that divides them. And I'm in the far backyard, and I see this tree with these quartz crystal stones around it. And these stones are like the size of bowling balls. I don't know where they came from. I didn't put them there. I don't have any quartz crystal veins in my yard or in my neighbor's yards or anything like that. So I called a friend of mine. I said, what does this mean? And what am I supposed to do with it? And he's like, okay. He goes, you had an ascension? I go, yes. He goes, this is a meditation circle. And you're supposed to, and it was funny because when I found the stones, and I don't know why I do this, but I started doing this recently. I start touching stuff to see what I could feel. And I don't know why I do it. It just makes me, and I felt the stones, and the stones felt like they were vibrating, and then the little voice said, touch the tree. And I touched the tree, and the tree felt like it was pulsating. And I felt this energy coming from the stone through my body and into the tree. And so I was like, whoa, this is pretty crazy. So my friend said, when you go there, whenever you have a question for the universe, go sit in this circle with your back against the tree on these quartz crystal stones, barefooted so your feet are planted on the earth, right? So you're grounded, he said, so that the energy of the earth is holding you in, he said. And then you can meditate and ask a question, and you'll get any of the answers you want. He says, but you got to use this, he goes, this is something special. It doesn't happen to everybody. And he goes, Al, you got to, you really got to, take this serious, because he knew I wasn't really a metaphysical kind of guy, and then, and I was like, okay, no, I'll take it serious from this point on, and it just was an amazing experience. It really was. And if those stones weren't there, I would have really just thought it was a dream, but it said you're going to find something in the yard that's going to prove that this is not a dream, man. I did.
Yeah. Now, it sounds, when I hear you talk, it sounds like you have a real passion for the paranormal side, the whole ghost hunting side of it. But what would you say, of all of the things that you're involved in, what is your favorite to do of all of the organizations?
Oh, squatching for sure is my favorite. I love to squatch. Yeah. I got like 6 locations that I'm working up here, and I got a working relationship with a clan that they've, the last 3 years, I've had about 4, 5, 6 epiphanies that never crossed, like thoughts that have never crossed my mind, that just in a way are so simple. And yet when the little light bulb goes off, it blows your mind. You really can't believe that, this is happening, and I got about a half dozen senior people to me. I call the old timers, right? Everybody calls me an old timer, but I got old timers to me that I reach out to whenever I have an epiphany. And it's funny because once I tell them what I have, then they open up and they tell me, okay, this is what you're going to experience next. They never tell me, like, they don't give me any shortcuts how to get there. They just say, call me when you have your epiphany and we'll discuss it, you know? And way it was explained to me was that this is the way the Native Americans taught them. They didn't tell them what they were going to experience. They would just tell them, when you have an experience, come back to us and we'll explain it to you. And this is the way they're teaching me, you know, like I'll call, so why can't you just give me a heads up? So, nope, it's got to happen on your own time, in your own way. And then, and only then, is it real, and you could experience it. And then we'll tell you where it's going to go from here and what to look for. And, and I got a couple of guys that are young guys that are squatchers that I throw them a bone every now and then. I say, you don't have to wait 40 years to learn something. I'm gonna put this in the vault because not a lot of people know it, and I'm gonna tell you about it. And I drop them a bone. I give them a bone, and they just freak out. They're like, really? And I'm like, really? But don't tell anybody because not everybody knows about it. And that's how you can tell the bullshitters from the real guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now you said you had your first encounter with Sasquatch when you were 12, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, on South Florida.
Do you mind sharing that with us?
Oh, absolutely not. No, yeah, I was 12 years old. I was visiting my sister down in South Florida, a little town called Davie, outside of Fort Lauderdale. Back in the day, it was right on the cusp of the Everglades, and she was living in a development that was backed up right to the Everglades. I mean, we had swamps all around us, and it was like a 2-mile square with houses built in, but not all the homes were built yet. There were a lot of old vacant lots. There was a cattle rancher at one end and a horse rancher on the other, and they had a trail in the swamp where they would do horseback ride and take tours out, And at night we would go back there and we'd ride our dirt bikes and we'd have bonfires and stuff, and we'd hang out, drink some beers and stuff. And we worked we would do the work around my sister's house. My brother-in-law was a Marine, so he always had a list of stuff for us to do every day. And we would do it in the morning because then it would get too hot. And they had, we would either end up in the pool or in the neighbor's yard, had a man-made lake. We'd go in there sometimes because it was cooler than the pool. Or we'd end up taking horse groups out on the trail and the horses, horseback riding. So it was a great time, great summer. It was right after the 4th of July. We were me and my cousin Anthony. He used to come down with me. It was like our summer camp. Our parents would send us down there to work, and but we had a lot of fun. And we were up late one night, like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to date myself. There was a show back in the day called the Don Kirshner's Rock Concert. It used to come on after wrestling at 1 o'clock in the morning. We were up watching the rock concert, and something came by the house that stunk to high heaven. And my sister had 2 K9 German Shepherd, big boys, 120 pounds each, and they went ballistic. And I had to drag these 2 big dogs and put them in the garage. Otherwise, they would have woke up the whole house because it was like almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And so the next day, we're sitting around the kitchen table eating breakfast. And my son-in-law said, my brother-in-law said, why did the dogs go crazy last night? What were you guys doing? They thought like we were wrestling and stuff, and we had the dogs excited. And we're like, no, something came by the house, stunk to high heaven, And he said, oh, it must have been the skunk apes. And we just looked at my sister like, that skunk ape? What's a skunk ape, And they're like, it's just like, oh, it's like a Bigfoot, It's like they call Bigfoot down here. And we thought they were pulling our legs. We thought they were joking. So later that afternoon, we went out, we hung out with our friends in the neighborhood, and we met them back in the swamp, and we're telling them about it. And they were like, no, it's a real thing. It comes around when it gets really hot. When the summers are really hot, this thing comes around. And that particular year, there was a drought in Florida, and the Everglades were on fire, and it was pushing all the animals inland, okay? So this thing came inland. Okay, so that was the first night. A couple of nights go by. My brother-in-law had an Italian restaurant. He used to come home every night around 12 o'clock, and he would always bring us a couple of pizzas, and we were out on the patio in the back by the pool eating the pizzas when we heard boom, boom, like a 30-30 going off, right? Boom, boom, boom. And my brother-in-law said, go over to the horse rancher's house and see what's going on there, you know? And so we jumped on our dirt bikes and we raced across, and we get there and we see our friend, because his father was the one who owned the horse ranch. And we're like, what happened? What happened? He's like, the skunk ape snuck up on my father's new horse. His father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses because it would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. Well, this skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the 30-30, and the skunk ape runs into the swamp. Sheriff comes, the whole neighborhood is there, and the sheriff says, okay, well, you guys are on the outskirts. We'll start picking up the patrol here a little bit more. So the next morning we went back, me and my cousin Anthony, to see our friend. And then the Seminole Indian was there, and he was just coming out of the pasture with the horse. And when he brought the horse back to the corral, the horse had handprints on its hind quarters. Like if I was to grab you by your wrist and squeeze as hard and leave that mark, that's what it had on it. Not claw marks, but handprints. And I was like, what the hell is, this is mind-boggling to me. I'm a kid from the city, This is like, I'm just like, what? This is insane, So that happened. And so the sheriff says, okay, we're going to pick up the patrols, yada, yada, yada. So one night, the thing was in the swamp where we used to hang out and have our bonfires. And it was just going off at high heaven, screaming, like just, oh my God, like the horses were going crazy. The cattle, the cows were going crazy. I mean, the whole neighborhood was shaking when this thing screamed. I don't know what it was so pissed off about, but it was not happy. So then a couple of nights go by, and my brother-in-law and sister had friends fly in from New York, and they were taking them out to either Fort Lauderdale or Miami for dinner and dancing and all of that stuff. And me and my cousin were watching the kids. So we're sitting at the house, and 2:00 in the morning, they finally roll in and they say, any action tonight? We're like, no, it's been really quiet tonight. No sooner than we say that, we hear the most blood-curdling scream you've ever heard in your life. I mean, it was just crazy. And then you hear boom, boom, a double-barrel shotgun going off individually, right? So my sister goes running into the house with the dogs. My cousin jumps in the car with my brother-in-law and says, come on, let's go see what's going on. I jump in the back seat. My cousin's riding a shotgun. My brother-in-law opens up the sunroof of his car. I'm hanging out of the sunroof of his car. We come to the corner. Just as we get to the corner, deputy pulls out in front of us. And he's going really slow, and he's got a spotlight on, and he's aiming it towards the swamp. And you can see all the way at the other end of the development, headlights coming down the street, really, really slow. And that was the sheriff, because they were doing it like together. So he's looking to his left towards the swamp with the spotlight. We're 5 feet behind the deputy's car, and this creature comes running out from between two houses, and the deputy hits it. And when it hit this creature, that car stopped dead like it hit a tree, an oak tree, okay? I can't hear you. You must be muted.
I'm sorry about that. The cop car actually collided with the creature.
Yes, it hit the creature. Boom, head on. The creature goes down, takes down not only does it take down the sign, but it takes like a school bus sign, and it pancakes it, flattens it, okay? And it gets back up, and my brother-in-law hits it with the high beam, so we get a good look at it. And we can see the deputy in his car. He's all by himself. And it hobbles over to the police car. And with it hands like this, it does a hammer punch on the front of the car. and it screams like right into the car. The back of the car comes off the ground. I'm like this, hanging out of the sunroof. Everybody's like, oh my God. It hobbles back into the swamp. The sheriff finally rolls up and he sees the police car totaled, and he's taking the statement from the deputy, and he goes, well, why didn't you take the shotgun out and shoot it? And the deputy's like, no, the shotgun wasn't big enough, you know? And then he's taking our statement, and we're telling him basically the same thing that the deputy told him when the cattle rancher pulls up in his pickup truck. And he says, Sheriff, you got to go back to my farm. You got to see what this damn creature did to my prize bull. Now, this guy had a Brahma bull, a white Brahma bull with a hump in its back, okay? This bull was the size of a minivan. You know, if it was 2,500 pounds, it was light. It was a beast, okay? And I used to jog that 2 miles every day. And I would always see that bull just looking at me as I ran by, you know? And I would always look at that bull, and I would say, man, that thing is huge, just huge. And so we followed it. The sheriff takes off with the cattle rancher. We go around the deputy. We go with him, with the sheriff. We get down to the cattle rancher's road, and he's going like this with his spotlight into the pasture. And there's this Brahma bull bleeding out in the middle of the pasture with no head. And then he's going like this, and there's 100 yards on the other side of the pasture is the bull's head. And I'm thinking, there is no way in God's green earth this creature has the strength to do this. How does it do this to this bull? I mean, this bull is nothing but muscle. So the sheriff, and this guy is going crazy on the sheriff. You got to do something, you know, how much that bull cost me. And he's just going nuts, right? So the sheriff says, okay, we're going to do something. So he called in town police, county police, state police. They came in with helicopters. They came in with horses. They came in with dogs. Now, that whole summer, my cousin and I were seeing the reports of the skunk apes on the news every single day. There are skunk apes spotted in this town, skunk apes spotted in this town. State police seen the skunk ape come out of the woods here. So we're thinking it's going to be in all the newspapers. People are going to come to our house and interview us because we've seen it. You know, we're all psyched up. We went to like the local Winn-Dixie and put all the newspapers and everything. And there was nothing about anything. Like, it didn't happen. No one ever came to our house to interview us. I don't know who put the kibosh on that story, but it was like it didn't happen, you know. And I actually have that report in the BFRO website. And the woman who did that for me, she put up a thing of the neighborhood, like an aerial shot of the Sunshine. It's called Sunshine Acres. And she put that in. And then what she did, she was phenomenal. Ree was phenomenal. What she did after that is she put in all the newspaper articles of all the Sasquatch, all the skunk ape sightings that happened in South Florida that year. And there's like 50 different articles on it that was being seen all over. And the funny thing about it is she was the same age as me at the time, 12. And her father had an auto mechanics in Davie. And her father, she would hear about all the stuff that was going on in Davie because they lived in the next town over. I forgot what the town was called. And then her uncle was a police officer in the next town to the south of us called, what was it called? Oh man, I can't think of the name right now. But he had 2 books, an official report book and an unofficial report book. And when he retired, he gave her the unofficial report book of all the skunk ape things that they went to during that time when he was on the force. I mean, she was an amazing woman, and you know, it was great talking to her. And she really, and then Irma Seville, she did an artist rendering of the creature I seen too. So it was amazing.
Al, that's one of the most impressive encounters I've ever listened to, you know, firsthand. That was amazing. It sounds like y'all got a really, really good look at this thing. You got to tell me some details, man.
You know what I did? I skipped right over. One night, the creature comes. We had a 6-foot fence that went around the front of the house and the back of the house. But the main front of the house was a circle driveway with a fountain in it, okay? My cousin Anthony and I are sleeping in that sunroom, right? On a queen size bed after staying up watching wrestling one night, right? We're laying, and now the house has got sensor lights on all the corners. We're sitting there laying in the bed. We're all wound up from wrestling. And we see the sensor lights go on outside in the driveway. And we see this giant shadow go across the wall. So I jump off the bed and I belly crawl to the window that had like a curtain on it, right? And I'm peeking out of the curtain to see what created this huge shadow on the wall. And there is this creature. It was 9 feet tall, 1,000 pounds. It was black, but it had a lot of red highlights in its hair, like a lot of red tint in its hair. And I thought it looked at me, okay? Because it looked directly into that glass plate window that I was hiding behind. And it did like a Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk kind of scream, right? And I thought it was screaming at me. So I freaked out. Of course, the dogs were going crazy. I had to drag the dogs back into the garage. My cousin Anthony's frozen solid. He's not moving. And I said, come on, come on, come on. It's walking around the side of the house. And on this side of the house was an empty lot. And it had all these wild watermelons in it. We're sitting in the bathroom between the children's room with the window, with the tinted screen, tinted glass, and the lights off. And we can see this thing walking along the fence line. And that's how I figure it's about 9 feet tall, because it was head and shoulders above that 6-foot fence, right? And the whole time it's walking along the side of the fence line, it's looking right at us like it can see us. And we're thinking, how could it possibly see us? We're pitch black, you know? It stops, reaches down and grabs a wild watermelon, takes a bite out of this wild watermelon. There's nothing left, throws the ends down, walks towards the back of the property. We run around to the patio, which was screened in, left all the lights off on the patio. As it passes the back of the house, the back of the sets of lights go on, and we watch it walk past our property, again, the whole time looking back at us. It got to the man-made lake behind our house, our neighbor's man-made lake, squatted down and started drinking the water out of it, the whole time never taking its eyes off of us. And then it went into the woods where we did all our dirt bike riding and just started going off screaming. The next day we got up, we told my brother-in-law what happened. We went out and looked, and in the sand were a trackway. And these tracks were like 18 inches long and 9 inches wide. And my brother-in-law says, I'm coming home for lunch. We're going to cast these tracks. I'm going to put them on my bar. You know, he wanted to put them up on his bar. So when people came over, he could, you know, something to talk about. Mm-hmm. He never came home for lunch. The restaurant got really busy. And when the horse people came by our house, they would always go by our fence line to go to the woods. And they went over the track. So by the time he got home from work at 12 o'clock at night, the trackway was gone from the horses, you know. Of course. That was insane. And I remember the first interview I did. I don't remember if it was, I think it was either Wes Germer or Vic Cundiff. One of them asked me, what did you think it was? And I said, I thought it was a monster because it was so big and so wide at the shoulders and so thick that my brain couldn't comprehend what my eyes were seeing. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I tell people this all the time, especially people say, "Oh, I want to have an encounter. I want to see one." Like, listen, if you're ever lucky enough to see one of these things up close and personal, I'm going to tell you right now, your brain is going to shut off because it's not going to be able to comprehend what your eyes are seeing. When people say, how come you don't take pictures? And say, believe me, pictures are the last thing on your mind when you're up close and personal with one of these creatures. They're just so massive and so physically strong. It's just mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling.
Can you give us like some detail? Like, did you get a good look at the face? Would you say? Let me ask. Would you say Looking at the face, was it more man-like or animal-like?
This looked like an animal. Yeah, this guy looked like an animal. I mean, he had a conical head. He had a hooded nose, had a really wide mouth. He had really big eyes, like horse eyes, and he had canines, because when he screamed, I seen the canines. And that's what really scared the living crap out of me. And he was just massive. My cousin Anthony was a weightlifter. He had a back that was like 4 feet wide. I was more a martial arts guy, okay? And so we both worked out. We ran, we exercised. So we hung around with a lot of guys that had arms the size of my legs, And this thing was just massive. Like, it would make Arnold look like a twig. That's how big it was. I mean, it was just massive.
Oh my goodness.
And its arms were really long, down past its legs. Yeah, down past its knees. Yeah. It was massive. I was just it's the scariest thing I ever seen in my life. And so, like I said, I lived in the city. When we came back from New York, I lived in the city and I couldn't sleep at night because I thought it was going to come and drag me out of my way, because I had a big picture window in my bedroom, that faced the street. And I had a little postage stamp piece of property of grass. I said, this thing all it has to do is step over the bushes, reach through the window, grab me and pull me out. And for like 3 years, I mean, it was just like terrifying to sleep in that room, because my bedroom was small. It was like 10 feet long by maybe 5-6 feet wide, because it used to be a front porch, and my father was a carpenter. He closed it in and made a bedroom out of it, So it wasn't like a real traditional room on the side of the house. It was right in the front, So freaked me out. And then I was telling my cousin Anthony, I remember saying, man, I can't wait to get back to New York to tell my brother, because he's a parapsychologist. We have always had books in the house on Bigfoot and aliens and ghosts. And, my brother worked with Han Holzer's right-hand man, what I mean? Worked with Ethel, his psychic. So my cousin's like, no, you're not telling anybody. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not telling anybody? Because if you tell anybody, everybody's going to think, we're idiots, and they're going to make fun of us. He goes, if you tell anybody, my cousin Anthony was 3 years older than me. He was 15, and he was like my brother, and he was like, if you tell anybody, I'm just going to beat your ass, and I was like, I didn't feel like getting my ass beat. So I never told anybody, except a couple of close friends that I knew would keep it in the lowdown, but, so I never told my brother. And my brother wrote a book a couple of years ago, and I told my brother the story. He's like, why didn't you ever tell me this? Because Anthony threatened to kick my ass. I never told anybody. And when we got back to New York, my sister calls me up and she says, you're never going to guess what happened. I said, what happened? Now, like I said, our property was surrounded by canals. On the other side of the canal was a different development. And a friend of ours, this guy Ralph, had a ranch there, horse ranch on the other side. And he said, right after you left and you guys flew back to New York, the skunk ape came out, broke into Ralph's corral and grabbed a pony and snapped its neck and was dragging the pony off. But he stepped on a nail or something, or cut its foot, because when Ralph seen the blood trail, he called all the neighbors, and everybody got on horses and they went to hunt this thing in the swamp, and they followed the blood trail right to the right to the canal. And they never found the creature. They never found the pony with the broken neck. But no, they did find the pony with the broken neck. They found the pony right by the swamp, the canal, and it had its all its vital organs ripped out of it and eaten. And that was it. Everything else was there. But its neck was snapped because his head was turned the wrong way. Yeah, and this dude Ralph was like, he was like a real, he was like a real rebel kind of guy, you know what I mean? They put a posse together. If they would have caught up with that thing, they would have put it down for sure, You got to remember, South Florida in '74 were all dirt roads, and it was real cowboy country. The biggest thing that came into Davie was the was the rodeo on the 4th of July. You know what I mean? And that was it. So these guys were real cowboys down there back then.
I wasn't expecting that, Al. That was a great encounter, and that took us up to the hour mark. And I had so many other questions I had written down to ask you. So what I do want to ask you is if you'd like to come back for a part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come back. Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll
like you
talk
said,
after the show.
we barely we just hit the tip of the iceberg tonight. You know what I mean?
I got the feeling you're right, man. And you had me on the edge of my seat during that Sasquatch encounter. That's good stuff, man. So, yeah, if you'll come back, I got other questions I'd like to ask. We'll set something up if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely not. Just shoot me some dates and I'll see what my schedule looks like, and I'll get back to you. Sure.
All right, man. That sounds great. Well, yeah, again, let me thank you for taking the time to come hang out.
Were there any questions or anything in the chat room I could answer before I leave? I don't think...
None came through. We had some comments come in, but sometimes it's a slow night. It was a slow night for questions.
Yeah, it is what it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll set it up for you to come back, and man, I appreciate it. That was a good one.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, brother.
All right, man. You have a good night, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Good night.
See you, bud. All right, guys. Y'all heard it. What an encounter. A Bigfoot encounter. That was crazy. That was good stuff. All right, guys. Again, thank you so very much for taking the time to hang out with me tonight. Paranormal Odyssey Live. Got another one coming up next week. We're booked through the rest of the year, guys. So every Friday night for the rest of the year, y'all come back and hang out. Don't forget about our other shows throughout the week. All right, guys. Let's get out of here. I will see you next time. Guys, be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Take care of each other. And I'll see you next time.